of Malawi's National Economy Strategy 2021-2026 has put emphasis on digital services as a key driver for economic development. The strategy highlights areas of core digital that will build the foundation necessary for Malawi's digital transformation. These key strong attributes around infrastructure, building digital skills, and literacy. COVID-19 has also provided a push factor, to speed up our work towards an inclusive digital economy, which can be achieved through increased research, increased reach and usage of digital financial services across the country, especially in rural areas, and the participation of the private sector. This initiative, supported by the European Commission and the Organization of African, Caribbean, and Pacific States, is timely and will be an addition to government's efforts in creating sustainable growth and contributing to the attainment of the Sustainable Development Goals. Among the pillars, private sector leadership in the economy is expected to play its part and to contribute towards economic development by providing inclusive, innovative products and services to the market with emphasis on marginalized groups. Women and youth are underserved by financial service across the globe, and indeed Malawi is not different. UNCDF's focus to support women and youth for economic resilience allows us to leapfrog in adopting new technologies and share the risk that is taken by the private sector to expand financial access points. The collaboration between the government of Malawi and UNCDF will help implementation of the government's plan in prioritizing digital payments and take entrepreneurship in the development of Malawi's digital economy. Finally, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I would like to take this opportunity to declare the Digital Finance for Resilience project in Malawi indeed officially launched, and look forward to the successful implementation of the project to achieve its set objectives. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Njati, for your remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Ivo Hofkins from the European Union, where he is Head of Cooperation. Mr. Hofkins, thank you for sharing why this initiative in Malawi is so important for the European Union.
Yes, good afternoon to all. I hope you can hear me loud and clear. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Well, it seemed important to make sure that I was audible. In any case, good afternoon to all, and a warm welcome to this event that is indeed quite important and quite timely for us here in the EU delegation. You may know that the EU plans its development cooperation in 7-year cycles. We've just concluded one, and in the past year and the beginning of this year, we've been preparing together with the government and in particularly with the National Planning Commission and with the Ministry of Finance, our multi-annual plan for the coming 7 years, which fully in alignment with the Malawi 2063 also targets specifically this topic. So this new initiative that is being launched today sits very well with our plans for the future of our development cooperation with Malawi. I wanted to underline that. And it is, of course, also very timely as it comes in the context of COVID-19, and it will help the development partners here, the UN, the Organization of Africa, Caribbean and Pacific States, and the EU to support Malawi, not only in addressing the pandemic at this point, which is still very much going on, but also in supporting the economic recovery that eventually will have to take off. This coronavirus, it will not have escaped you, has challenged the entire world in an unprecedented manner. It is clearly something unseen, and it poses a constant threat to livelihoods and to economic growth. And in particular in Malawi, we've seen is how growth projections last year, this year, have been gradually tuned down, if I may say so. And that comes then in a context of where in Malawi, the majority of the population works in the informal sector, and social distancing and other preventive measures, which time and again are tightened, are far more difficult to implement. And it is also in this informal sector that the impact of COVID-19 is most likely to be felt by women and by the youth, who generally earn less and save less and hold more insecure jobs, and as a consequence have less capacity to absorb economic shocks. So the EU and the Organization of Africa, Caribbean and Pacific States have identified financial inclusion and digital financial services as one of the solutions to support the initial response in economic recovery of ACP countries affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, and starting today, also Malawi. The digital financial services could indeed enable, for instance, health workers to be paid on time, or empower individuals to receive emergency income support from governments in a more efficient manner. And actually here in Malawi, we are supporting government in this endeavor of the social cash transfers in urban context, the emergency cash transfers that was rolled out, prepared and rolled out in the context of COVID-19. It can also ensure that money is spent digitally, which reduces physical contact and increases social distancing. So the EU has joined forces with the UN Capital Development Fund to fund this program, which will use a market systems development approach to promote financial inclusion through enabling regulations and digital financial services. And we are fully confident that the program can demonstrate that there is a strong business case to serve women and youth and incentivize digital financial services providers to serve them and increase financial inclusion. And I'm also, in that context, happy to see that indeed representative of the Reserve Bank and of the FDH Bank and TNM are here present. The program will improve digital finance policies and regulations, providing an early response to emergencies and creating an enabling environment to economic recovery. And more importantly, it will create and strengthen digital financial ecosystems that support low-income individuals, and in particular, women and youth. It will also help micro and small and medium enterprises, MSMEs, to seize new opportunities in the economy. At the end, I would like to stress that the success of this program will strongly depend on a collaborative effort, bringing together the Ministry of Finance, the Reserve Bank of Malawi, the banking sector, the microfinance associations, the mobile network operators, and other stakeholders. A strong collaboration between all these partners, and in particular the ownership of the Malawian partners, will be key to the success of this program. In the end, allow me to thank UNCDF for taking on this digital initiative. UNCDF has extensive experience in the area of digital finance, and in particular in promoting skills and financial inclusion among youth and women. And I have full confidence that they, together with the Ministry of Finance and the other stakeholders present today, will deliver a successful project. At least we count on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hofkins, for your remarks. We appreciate that. I would now like to welcome Ms. Yvonne Chileshe, who is an expert in commodities and value chain development with the Organization of African, Caribbean, and Pacific States. Good afternoon, Ms. Chileshe.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Can hear you loud and clear. You can turn on your video
All
also.
right.
Not on.
It's actually on.
Oh.
Yes?
Yes, can see you well.
Okay, all right, great. Yes, let me start by recognizing the Secretary to the Treasury, Mr. Chansi Simwaka, who's represented today by Mr. Njati, Head of Cooperation, EU Delegation, Mr. Ivo Hofkins, representatives of the public and private sector, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of our Secretary General, His Excellency, Mr. Georges Rebelo Pinto Chikoti, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank UNCDF for inviting the OACPS Secretariat to participate in this very important event that marks the launch of the project on digital finance for resilience in Malawi. We believe this launch is timely as it comes when countries are grappling and trying to address the challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic. Therefore, leveraging digital finance to deepen financial inclusion is cardinal in supporting OACPS countries like Malawi recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. I am happy to note that the program we're launching today is a great example of the collective commitment of the OACPS, the European Union, UNCDF, and the government of Malawi to work together to enhance financial inclusion and identify digital solutions that are key to create more jobs and improve basic services in OACPS countries. This is how we make transformational progress, by leveraging our strengths and complementarities to ensure effective and impactful contribution. And this is why, with the EU, we have allocated 14.5 million euros to implement various activities to grow and develop the digital finance industries in OACPS countries. We are therefore delighted that today we can positively say we are walking the talk by launching this program in Malawi. Ladies and gentlemen, the program that we're discussing today is among the various intra-ACP programs currently being implemented under the joint ACP EU Private Sector Development Framework, which was adopted in 2014. The framework seeks to encourage the development of a more competitive and responsible business sector and provides a unique platform to address some of the challenges brought about by the pandemic and to turn these challenges into opportunities. Under this framework, we are emphasizing, together with our partners, the European Union, on the need to build synergies and complementarity among the intra-ACP programs being implemented, including the program we're discussing today. Some of the programs which we're implementing that are looking at facilitating access to finance include: 1, the OACP EU Framework Program on Agriculture Value Chains, which has a budget of roughly 154 million euros. 2, the Agribusiness Capital Fund with a budget of 45 million. 3, the URIS, a guarantee facility, which has a budget of about 830 million euros. Distinguished guests, a few words on the OACPS. It is an international organization based in Brussels, composed of 79 members from the regions of Africa, Caribbean, and Pacific. Our organization is headed, as I mentioned, by our Secretary General, His Excellency, Mr. Georges Rebelo Pinto Chikoti. We work closely with the European Union and have just concluded in April this year negotiations on a new OACPS EU partnership agreement, which will run for the next 20 years, replacing the previous Cotonou partnership agreement. Let me now conclude by expressing our gratitude to the government of Malawi for their commitment to this program. I also want to thank Uncdf for organizing this event and inviting us. We are proud to collaborate with the EU and the UN in promoting sustainable development of our countries. Please be rest assured that we stand with you and will continue to be your partner in the recovery period ahead. Thank you for your kind attention. Zikomo.
Thank you so much, Ms. Chileshe, for your remarks and for letting us know a little bit more about the OACPS and the plans for Malawi's development and cooperation. I would now like to invite Iris Kasiti from UNCDF. She is the Digital Finance Coordinator in Malawi. She will do two things in our presentation this afternoon. She will speak about how this initiative fits into UNCDF's Inclusive Digital Economies strategy, and will also introduce the DFS assessment for Malawi, which was recently concluded in preparation for this program. Good afternoon, Ms. Kasiti.
Thank you so much, Mali. The Secretary to the Treasury. I'm sorry for any background noise. Mali, can you hear me okay? Great. The Secretary to the Treasury, represented by the Principal Secretary, Finance and Administration, Mr. Hathawik Njati, Mr. Ivor Hopkins, Ms. Yvonne Chileshe, panelists, participants to this webinar, greetings from Malawi. It is indeed a pleasure to be here today launching this project. Let me first thank the Ministry of Finance, Malawi, for bringing us together today. We need to focus on how we can work together with the ministry to accelerate the development of digital finance in Malawi, especially for women and youth, as you indeed mentioned in your speech. Digital finance is a critical component of the digital transformation of the country. So as UNCDF, we're really keen to contribute to this ambitious goal. We would also like to thank the EU delegation in Malawi, the EU in Brussels, the Organization of the African, Caribbean, and Pacific States for this great partnership on digital finance in several countries, including in Malawi. I would now like to share a rapid introduction of UNCDF. UNCDF is an aid agency that combines the strengths of a development agency on one side and a development bank on the other side. Really, our objective is to be able to bring financing to the next and last mile with a vision to leave no one behind. Here we're talking women, we're talking youth, we're talking MSMEs, we're talking people with disabilities, as well as people in rural communities. And our focus here is to basically, we have been known in the past to be working in financial inclusion, but we're now expanding our focus to build digital economies around these financial systems, which will really increase their impact. At UNCDF, we're keen to take more risk and support project initiatives with great development impact. We're doing this by supporting a wide range of partners, both in public and private sector, with the different types of instruments at our disposal, such as a strong technical team with expertise on ground. We're also able to provide grants and able to de-risk impactful business models and innovation of products and services. Furthermore, we're also able to use loans and guarantees to actually scale these models and create more impact. We do mainstream digital in all our work because we recognize that digital is not only resilient, it's also an accelerator of economic growth. 3 years ago, we developed a strategy called Leaving No One Behind in the Digital Era, and with the main objective to equip millions of people to use innovative digital services in their daily lives that will empower them and contribute to the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. And we're glad to have this strategy in Malawi as well. Next slide, Molly. Thank you. So for this slide, I would like to give you an overview of the program that we're launching. The program is a 4-year program supported by the EU and the OACPS that has the objective to contribute to the deployment of digital finance solutions at the scale and speed necessary to accelerate economic recovery after COVID-19. We will be working on 2 main objectives. The first objective being policy and regulation. And we hope to work with the Reserve Bank of Malawi as well as the Ministry of Finance in order to be able to develop an enabling policy and regulatory environment that will allow digital finance to grow and improve in Malawi. The second objective is digital finance innovation, where we will be working on the core of digital finance. This is mainly going to be focused around helping providers expand their agent network, looking at digital and financial literacy, innovation of inclusive products and services around credit, saving, insurance. As you can see, the overall program target is to reach 600,000 people to access and use digital financial services. Next slide, Molly. Again, I apologize for the background noise. The program is running in different areas shown on the map, in the Caribbean, in the Pacific, and in Africa. In Africa, not only are we having this program in Malawi, but it's also in Ethiopia, and it's also in Niger and Gabon, as well as in the Pacific and in the Caribbean. We hope to actually leverage the global nature of this program, ensuring that learnings and best practices are shared among the countries. And we will be building a community of practice at country, regional, and global level to make sure that the learnings are shared and dispersed. I would like to take this opportunity to now move on to the next slide, Molly. Thank you. I will be presenting the headline findings from the digital finance assessment that Uncdf conducted on Malawi. We had, once we did this assessment, there's so many things that stood out to us that we thought it would be useful to share, and also interesting as well as shocking in some points. So here we're looking at account ownership for LDCs, low development countries in the East and Southern Africa region. Here we have a comparative snapshot of financial accounts. In this graph, just to make sure everyone is on the same page, accounts are the overall financial accounts. These include mobile money accounts. Then the financial institution accounts exclude mobile money accounts. And then the mobile money account, which is in gray, is exclusively mobile money. Our point here is to compare Malawi's account ownership to the other low development countries in the East African region. Kindly note that these are not all the low development countries in the region, but we did benchmark the countries where Uncdf has operations. In comparison to the other countries, Malawi is actually lowest in some parameters. For example, in financial institution account and mobile money. The Findex report 2017 actually showed that only 34% of the adults have a formal account and 23% of adults had a mobile money account. While these figures are aligned with low-income country averages, they're actually low, as you can tell, in the East and Southern African region. This definitely does create an opportunity to not like significantly improve both access to financial institution and usage, as well as for mobile money, to increase the overall account ownership in Malawi. Next slide, Molly. We did not just look at account ownership, but we as a top line, looking at top line growth of account ownership, but we actually were quite interested in looking at the gaps that exist. Why do some people have access and while others do not? So basically, we really did look at marginalized demographics, such as rural people with low incomes, people with access to education, women, and the youth. So what we've done here is taken the data and measured the difference in the percentage likelihood that someone will actually own an account if they're, say, educated versus someone who's not, if their income is high, say at the top 60%, while comparing that to someone who has low income, or whether they're a woman or a man. And this is what we came up with, that there are some significant gaps. As you can see, there's an education gap of 30%, income gap of 21%, and unemployment gap of 18%. Next slide, Molly. So over the 3 observational periods, 2011, 2014, 2017, we see an increase in top line growth in account ownership, but these gaps that we have talked about in the previous slide have actually widened, especially when you look at employment, unemployment, income, and education. In the past, as industry players, many of us have really just focused on the top line growth of account ownership, focusing on mainly getting more users and increasing the value within the systems to make them more robust. But in doing so, these gaps have actually worsened. What we think is important to highlight here is we need to intensify our focus as an industry towards these marginalized communities that are falling further behind relative to people who are benefiting from the growth in digital finance. So those people with higher incomes and education, for example. Next slide, Molly. A lot has been said about distribution and agent networks and how this is going to be one of the focus areas for the program. So I thought it's important to highlight where Malawi is and how it compares to its neighbors. So in this slide, we're just comparing Malawi to Zambia. I just want to note that on this slide, we're looking at tills, not outlets, but it potentially shows a huge disparity between the distribution in Malawi and Zambia. This is an area that we definitely need to focus on, especially on these marginalized communities that we're focusing on. So again, rural communities, women, youth, MSMEs as well. We need to be able to extend and grow the distribution network of financial services to their doorsteps to make it more convenient for them to use these services. I like to say here that as we might put focus in developing new financial and digital services, but if the distribution does not work for the people we're targeting, then we won't get mileage. So we need to focus on this. Next slide, Molly. So what does the project mean to Malawi? Our attention, so here there are 4 topics that we're going to be focusing on for the project in Malawi. So we're going to be looking at expanding agent networks, and there will be a grant to support expansion of agent networks through implementing financial service providers. The objective here is to increase accessibility of digital financial services. As you know, agent networks is an enabler of digital finance. So in order for us to take services and solutions to the people that we're targeting, we need to make sure that they do have access. We're also going to be looking at building long-term customer resilience, and there will be a grant to the development of digital and financial literacy. Again, here, the objective is to really empower people and ensure that they understand the available digital financial services in place and how to use them and how to use them to improve their ability to live a better life. Thirdly, we're looking at digital financial services beyond digital payments. So we're looking at innovation of digital financial services and solutions. This innovation is not limited to just digital financial services, but we're also looking at new or improved business models to deploy these digital financial services. Again, with the objective to increase usage of digital finance in people's lives. The last topic would be around lateral learning and enhancing that. And so we have already actually started engaging with a number of private and public sector, and we do wish to establish a working group where these industry players can actually collaborate and share knowledge and work together. Our intention is to use this initial digital financial assessment that I've shared earlier and the ongoing stakeholder consultations and engagement to help guide what programming will mean in Malawi on these different topics, and where the priorities will be on, say, financial digital literacy, on which innovations to invest in, and the industry collaborations going forward. At this point, please allow me to say I'm looking forward to engaging with all of you on the implementation of this program and in playing our role as a market facilitator towards a more resilient and inclusive digital economy. Thank you very much. Back to you, Mali.
Thank you so much, Iris, for that insightful and informative presentation. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to hear in closer detail from those working in the digital financial sector and learn from them. Today, we have a rich body of knowledge and experience in our panelists who can speak to the focus areas that Iris has taken the time to explain and highlighted in the presentation. Our panelists today are Mr. Tione Kamfumbu from TNM Pamba, where he serves as the marketing manager of mobile money. Tione's role involves attracting more customers to mobile money services, which is critical to expansion of mobile money services. Good afternoon, Mr. Kamfumbu. Is he there?
Good afternoon, Mali.
Hello. Next, we have Ms. Victoria Mbewe, who is the Group Head of Digital Financial Services at FDH Bank. She oversees all aspects of their digital strategy. Ms. Mbewe has over 11 years experience in the banking sector. Good afternoon, Victoria.
Good afternoon, Mali. I hope you can hear me.
We can hear you, thank you. And the last member of the panel is Mr. Njul Ndalama from the Reserve Bank of Malawi. At RBM, Mr. Ndalama serves as the Principal Analyst for Policy, National Payments in the National Payments and Systems Department. He has been with the Reserve Bank for over 10 years. Good afternoon, Mr. Ndalama.
Good afternoon, Mali.
Thank you all so much for being here today. We'd first like to hear from the regulator. The Reserve Bank of Malawi introduced some policy measures during the first quarter of 2020, one of which saw financial service providers reducing transaction fees by 40%. This has contributed to a rise in the use of digital financial services since the COVID pandemic began. What other policy measures would RBM introduce in the next year to increase usage of digital financial services?
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, when the COVID pandemic started last year, indeed the Reserve Bank facilitated reduction of digital financial services charges by 40%. And that one was supposed to stay for maybe about 3 months or so. But we saw that the pandemic continued, and this necessitated the continuation of the reduction of the 40%, the reduction of the charges by 40%. Now, this time we are still discussing with the commercial banks to make sure that the 40% reduction is sustained because the pandemic is continuing. And another thing is effective this month, there is a pause regression whereby each and every merchant will have a pause device so that a customer will have options of payments other than cash. So we are trying to make sure that people are able to have several options, digital options when it comes to payments, because cash itself is, of course, is risky, especially this time of COVID-19 pandemic. So that's why we are trying to promote the use of digital financial services by coming up with several options on payments. Sure, Mali.
Thank you. And obviously there has been an increase in the usage. Is that 40% sustainable for the DFS providers?
Yeah, that one we can say so because we still believe that promotion of digital financial services is everyone's responsibility, including the financial market players. So these digital financial services providers have also to play their part. If you see what happened when the digital financial services charges were reduced, there was an increase in the use of digital financial services, which means that these providers, as stakeholders in the promotion of digital financial services, have to play their part. And we still believe that as time goes on, they should be able to bring in the other incentives to promote the use of digital financial services.
Right. Thank you. From, again, just staying with RBM, from your perspective, how ready is the Malawian market for more players to increase growth, the product offerings, and expand the use of DFS in Malawi? You've already mentioned to bring in other incentives and other product types or use cases. How ready is the market for more players to bring those services to market?
Yeah, we are very ready. You know, as a central bank, we create a conducive environment for all players by coming up with policies that would ensure that there is a participation of each and every player. So you see that because of that conducive environment, there is upsurge of applicants for from digital financial services, prospective digital financial services to come in. And we are almost on a daily basis, we are receiving applications for from these prospective digital financial services providers to provide some more services innovative services, because it's not only mobile money services that we believe are important when it comes to promotion of digital financial services. There are other innovative ideas that we are trying to consider to make sure that there are diverse options when it comes to provision of digital financial services in the country.
Okay, thank you. That's very insightful. I'd just like to move now to FDH Bank, Victoria. In Malawi, only 11% of adults own a mobile money account, which is only about a third of all those who own a formal financial account. And Mr. Ndalama has just mentioned that they receive a high number of applications that show various types of innovations. And in your opinion, what opportunity areas exist to expand use cases and agent networks?
Thank you very much. I should say that there's a lot of innovation in Malawi, and I think we are very much advanced on that end. The only challenge I see in this market is we operate in silos, as in we all have closed loop systems. Interoperability has just been explored on the ATMs and point of sale. But if you notice, there are a lot of products that are being introduced by individual organizations and entities, fintechs, banks, MNOs. But it's something that is a bit closed, whereby it's only bilateral integrations that we're experiencing on the market. A very good example I'll touch on is the interoperability of agents. As you have shown in your report, you notice that on the bank side, we only have fewer branches and we have fewer ATMs compared to number of agents on the MNO side. The challenge that we have is that it is a closed loop system. We only have TNM and Airtel. It's only Airtel agents that can service Airtel money subscribers. And then it's only TNM Bamba agents that can service TNM Bamba customers. The same applies to the banks. So since that service offering is closed, you find that every other bank is now going to the regulator, also applying for agency banking services, and then they're recruiting their own agents. And then again, it's a closed loop there. And at the end of the day, what is happening is there are a lot of initiatives bombarding the very same target with different kinds of offering, and it is ending into a price war of some sort. So for us to leverage on the use cases, it would have been easier for us to make sure that we have extended it to ourselves to have a proper partnership across the market so that the customers would have an easy access to their account, whether to transact, whether you are an Airtel person, to transact on a Mbamba agent, and then we can progress like that. But right now, I am forced to have 7 accounts. I am on Mbamba, I'm on Airtel Money, and I'm on FDH, I'm on NBS, I'm on National Bank, because I have to access different type of services based on the type of offering that one organization is offering on the market. Yeah, thank you very much. I would say we need a lot of ecosystems to work together, not bilaterally, but across the market, so that we can benefit easier. And that is the only way we can ensure that we have recruited a lot of people onto the financial services platforms. Thank you very much, Mali.
Thank you, Victoria. So you've sort of highlighted one of the challenges that your institution has experienced with regards to maybe developing or scaling an agent network. I'll just switch to TNM Pamba real quickly. Do you have an example of other challenges that you've experienced with regards to developing and scaling an agent distribution network?
Thank you, Mali. Yeah, so yes, definitely there are a number of challenges as well that we have also come across. So most of these challenges that I would like to highlight are actually more in terms of infrastructure and accessibility of some areas that we are dealing with within the country. So for instance, we have some areas that do not have the right infrastructure that is actually required for doing business by the agents. For instance, you might have a small area, a trading center or a small village where there is no shop, there is no grocery where these agents can actually be housed to run their businesses. And then we also have the challenges, other challenges in terms of accessibility, where some of these locations we have what we would like to call seasonal roads. For instance, a good example would be like Neno, one of the areas within the country, where actually the roads become practically impassable during the rain season. Now, if we're looking at places of that nature, for us as DFS providers, to run a business that will have an agent there, I think this applies not only to MNOs, but even to banks. For example, in places like, I don't believe there is any bank branch that is there yet as of now, simply because of issues of accessibility. Now, if these issues are addressed, we have government here represented within this mini meeting. Now, if issues of this nature are addressed, we do believe that we can actually be able to scale up in terms of our availability of agents within these different areas. And the other issue that is a challenge is also to do with availability or coverage of electricity within the country. As an agent, whether be it on mobile money or is it a bank, for them to actually run a business, they do need electricity. And if a phone dies, an agent has to shut down their business and go and find a place where they can recharge their device for them to continue doing business. This in its own is a big challenge, because now it means they send customers back, and the customers will start actually gaining mistrust on the services that are being offered. This service is not available all the time when and as I need it as a customer. So this is a challenge, another challenge that actually needs to be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tione, for that. It's definitely, there's a lot, there are a lot of challenges and experiences that you all are facing. We're having this meeting because of the pandemic's restrictions on movement and the use of physical space. And Tione, from your perspective, just sticking with you, how has digital finance evolved in the pandemic period so far? And what impact has this had on your distribution network or strategy?
Thank you for that question. And yes, I would like to agree that indeed the pandemic has had an impact on DFS as a whole, and also actually what we have seen in terms of distribution within our business. So the one thing that I would like to point out first of all is that we have seen some sort of changing habits or trends in terms of how customers are transacting. So there has been an increase in terms of customers actually doing certain types of transactions. For example, transactions where customers are actually moving funds from their bank accounts to mobile money wallets, and similarly sending from mobile money wallets to banks. This generally comes in because of the fear of being in crowded spaces, and having to travel distances to be able to do transactions, because that now is actually putting people at risk of contracting the virus, the COVID virus. So this is something that we are seeing actually happening throughout the previous year with the increase of the pandemic. And then we have also seen that other behaviors that we've seen are now to do with our distribution network, where we have seen that our agents, normally an agent who is doing a transaction will actually have to offload their value or cash through a super agent who may not be within their vicinity, and that means they might have to actually get to a certain location to be able to do this. Sometimes we're actually even working with banks as well, where they're actually able to do this within banks. However, with the pandemic, we've seen that there's also been a tendency now for agents to actually, within their locations, to actually seek each other out, where they're now actually able to offload value and cash with each other. So one agent has more value than the other. They will actually seek each other out and they assist each other, just to avoid having to actually travel long distances and to be able to do everything within their vicinity. So this is another thing that we've seen that has actually been a change of behavior that has, I think, come about because of the pandemic. And of course, obviously, the other bit is where we are also seeing that there is some uptake that I've seen in terms of usage of DFS services within retail outlets. So some outlets now are becoming more and more open to actually accept payments through mobile money and through other DFS services. And with the regulation that RBM has indicated that starting from this month, all retail outlets are supposed to take some sort of DFS payment. This we see as an opportunity for actually DFS services to actually be able to grow very quickly within the country. Thank you.
Right. Victoria, can you briefly just explain maybe one or two impacts that your business has had particularly, or if you have anything further to add on to what Tione has mentioned?
Thank you very much, Mali. I should say that we have experienced quite a challenge on the cost of running the business in terms of mainly the USSD platform, where we are being charged per session, and the session would be that for one to pay for water or even buy electricity, we are being charged about 4 kwacha 80 or 5 kwacha per session. So by the time someone is finalizing one transaction, we have to pay the MNOs about 100 kwacha. And at the end of the day, I am having to forgo my charges by 40%, as explained earlier. So it is becoming something that is very challenging on my end to ensure that I sustain the business. Seeing that with COVID, the transactions are going up and we are having a lot of customers transacting. So the cost of running the DFS business during the COVID pandemic has gone up, whilst the charges have gone down. So it's quite a tough offering for us to find a sweet spot where we would be able to offer a sustainable platform for the customers. Furthermore, we have to ensure that we have provided redundancy lines. You can't rely on one network provider as far as DFS is concerned. You have to ensure that you have applied redundancy lines, and you have to ensure that those lines are working at all times. So it comes with a very huge cost of running that business, to agree with Tione here. What we have ended up doing is to concentrate mainly on the partnerships that we have had and leveraged to ensure that we are increasing the volume of those transactions, just to ensure that we are breaking even on running the business. Right. Furthermore, I would say that the partnerships have managed to assist us to ensure that we have got a lot of outlets other than just our own infrastructure offering out on the market. I should say that the national switch has played a very important role to ensure that our customers do not go without being serviced across the merchant shops in terms of interoperability of point of sale. And we are very grateful to that. And we have seen that the transactions are really going up. And at the end of the day, our customers are really not suffering in terms of our limitations on the market to supply the necessary infrastructure and gadgets for them to transact across the merchant shops. Thank you very much, Mali.
Okay, thank you. So I think we've gotten a really good understanding of the complexities of the market and the challenges that the businesses are experiencing. and some people in the audience have mentioned that on the customer side, the end user side, for using digital financial services. So, I mean, I would like to think that the market players can maybe come sort of coordinate and come together to try and solve and problem solve this situation in order to scale and bring in more customers, because that was one of the issues that you mentioned, Victoria, was bringing in more customers will obviously, and expanding the number of transactions obviously helps offset some of those challenges. I think you've noted that the underserved populations are women and youth. Victoria, you noted this earlier, but I just wonder, in what ways does the market need to diversify to bring these customers into the market more? Is there, is there a particular demand for a type of product or service, a digital product, digital service, that would bring more of this demographic into the market?
Thinking out loud, I should say there are two gaps I've seen. We have a challenge in offering a sustainable product for group savings and group loans on the digital platform. What happens is there would be a group account, and then it will be linked to a mobile banking profile, and then they're not really able to access these services from the comfort of their village or home because of last mile connectivity, even though the last mile is there, but we are not having substantial products that are catering to those women and youths. There are loans, yes, but they're not really very conducive for the marginalized to access a substantial amount for them to make a change in their lives. Secondly, I would say that we need to ensure that we are offering a certain type of account or wallet that has got a certain simplified KYC. What I mean is, for the marginalized, you would find that some of them would only have, would not have a banking license, would have an ID, and now the IDs have expired, which means they cannot access any other type of digital financial service platform or product without having a valid ID. We are taking longer for us to replace those IDs, and at the end of the day, the acquisition of the marginalized has been, I should say, has shrunk for the past 2 months. So I would say that we need to have a simplified KYC where we'll be able to work with a certain parameter of KYC and say this is the lower tier, like an entry level for the bottom of the pyramid type. And once you want to graduate beyond transacting above 75 or 50,000 kwacha, you're required to bring in this and that. The challenge I'm seeing, and I love that we have the government and the ministries as well as the regulator here. If I'm just transacting about 50,000 and my turnover in that account throughput is not even getting to 75,000, surely you can allow to just simplify and just require just a entry level type. By entry level, I mean you can require a name, surname, and an ID, and then the rest can be upgraded if I want to do a high value of transactions. A good example you'd find in other countries, they would have an entry level wallet and then you can upgrade it as you go. I've noticed that Mpamba and Airtel also have specific types of wallets. If we are to extend the very same into the banking sector, you'd find that a lot of people would have a bank account and they would be allowed to access a card to transact with, and then easier, and little by little they would be comfortable and be accustomed to savings, and then they can access any other insurance products and savings like that. So that would be my my 2 cents there. And we need a lot of collaboration. You would find everyone is doing pretty much the same thing. They'll just tweak how they communicate it, and at the end of the day, it's not benefiting the end user. So if we are to innovate with the end user in mind, we would be able to reach out to the marginalized that are out there looking for these services that we're trying to offer. So that would be my contribution, Mali. And I'm hoping that as we are collaborating here, we'll collaborate further to see how best we can develop better offerings with easier use cases for an illiterate Malawian to easily grasp the functionalities and be comfortable to use that kind of functionality. Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you so much, Victoria. You've spoken of innovation, and I'm just curious, I'll throw this to RBM, Mr. Ndalama. How is it, innovation is obviously really critical in the DFS sector. And how is it that RBM is able to support, or how will RBM approach supporting startups that may not meet all the policy requirements at the moment when making the application, but they do offer an innovation that is digitally finance based and can offer something to the market? What is the approach taken in that case?
Yeah, I think there we might have some problems when it comes to startups who can, those who cannot meet the requirements. You know that this is a new field, and we have to make sure that the requirements are being followed, the regulations are being followed. However, as time goes on, the way I look at it is we should be able to accommodate these startups who don't have, those, the entrepreneurs, the young, especially the young entrepreneurs who will not have resources to start their ventures, especially the minimum capital. So for the time being, I still believe that since we are just venturing into this digital financial services, we have to make sure that we reduce risks when engaging these payment service providers or these innovative ideas. When we are promoting them, we have also to make sure that we are not putting ourselves at risk, because this involves money, and if we accept each and every individual to come up with their own innovative ideas, you find out that others or unscrupulous people might come in to make sure that maybe they defraud the customers, because our priority is also to protect the customers when it comes to provision of these services.
Right.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely correct. Thank you so much for that. I see that literacy has been a question that has been raised, and it's something spoken about in our region a great deal, the financial literacy and digital literacy as well. It would be interesting to hear from all three panelists what your perspective is on addressing the literacy, the financial literacy and digital literacy need there is among the customer base. Perhaps Tione, do you have thoughts on that to begin?
Yeah, thanks, Mali. Yeah, so definitely, I think literacy is indeed a challenge that is out there, especially if we are looking at women and youth in Malawi, and for us to actually expand digital financial services. And I think that's also an area where we know that the regulator previously has actually engaged with all DFS providers to actually try to drive activities to educate the masses, to try to increase the knowledge, to bridge the knowledge gap in terms of DFI services. And this is also an area which I think I had also wanted to take an opportunity here that we are all here to even engage, to push it also to UNCDF, that I think this is an area that would be a good area to actually come in, because the moment we bridge this gap of knowledge, people understanding what DFI is, and then also actually how it benefits them. The moment we bridge this gap, I think expansion and growth of DFI should become something that is easy for us to actually manage to handle within this country. But as long as that gap still remains, then the challenge is going to be, it's going to remain, because if you have an agent, for instance, or a customer who doesn't understand the benefits, what would actually push them to say that I need to get a mobile money wallet, or I need to get a bank account? If they don't understand the benefits of using this, then they will continue to actually keep their money under their pillow, dig it under the ground in the village. That is something that is going to continue. So we need to have this area of literacy addressed, educate the masses so that they understand the benefits of using mobile money services, using all digital financial services, so that we can actually expand and have a greater uptake to these services. Thank you.
Thank you, Tione. Victoria, would you have a contribution on this, the issue of financial and digital literacy?
Thank you, Mali. Just one contribution. Like I said earlier, to say that there's a lot of offerings on the market. If we are to standardize menus, it would be easier. But right now, if you notice, my product is very different from what Tuone is offering. It might be the very same service, buying electricity, but the transaction steps, I might have 7, Tuone might have 10, or he might have 4, I might have 12. So at the end of the day, the regulator has come through and they want to offer a hand to assist. But given the type of offering that we have on the market, everyone has got their own type of offering, and the transaction steps and the use cases differ regardless of having similar services. So the regulator now is having a tough time to find a sweet spot to say that for us to assist this particular number of customers, let us go and do this particular type of training. If we are to have a bit of a standardized approach on how we are offering, we have the easier, because the transaction steps are a bit easier compared to what we have on other digital platforms, USSD and mobile app. Thank you very much, Mali.
Thanks, Victoria. Yeah, that's very helpful. Standardizing menus just to get people more familiar with what the procedure would be to conduct a transaction. Mr. Ndalama, is there a perspective that RBM would like to offer on addressing financial and digital literacy in Malawi?
I think our Reserve Bank is already doing quite a lot. You see that we still believe that financial literacy should start with these young people, or those children, pupils that are in the primary schools. So there has been introduction of literacy lessons or subjects in the primary schools. We believe that as time goes on, the financial literacy will be, will be part and parcel of the people as they are growing, especially these children. And another thing is to do with mobile money services. You find out that mobile money services have brought a certain type of financial literacy that was not there before. You see, you go to the rural areas, you find out there is someone who has got a very basic financial literacy. That person is able to transact in mobile money services, to access mobile money services using their gadgets. We still believe that this is a development that is going to promote financial literacy amongst the poor and the rural people. Now,
Right.
yeah, there is also, I think we have also awareness campaigns. As Reserve Bank, there are these campaigns that are done now and again. The teams from the Reserve Bank, from Ministry of Finance, even from the commercial banks and mobile network operators, they go out into the rural areas and teach the people there how to transact, how they can save, and so forth. So we still believe that as Reserve Bank, we are doing quite a lot when it comes to financial literacy. Sure, thank you very much, Mali.
Okay, thank you so much. I'd just like to sort of spin it around a little bit and focus on UNCDF, the EU and the OACPS, the partners. How do you think we can help advance the work that you're doing? What would you like to see our partnership be like, essentially? You know, policy formulation or policy reform? Is there specific guidance or TA that one would require in a particular aspect or area? How do you think UNCDF can work with you better for this in this initiative? RBM, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yes. Yeah. You have already talked about the policy formulation. You see that digital financial services are evolving. They are evolving, and you find out that the regulations that we have done, laws and regulations that we have done today will not be, will not be effective maybe a year from now. So we have to review our laws and regulations now and again, and we believe that this project should be able to come in to assist in this policy formulation. And another thing is financial literacy. Financial literacy, as I have already said, there are several interventions that Reserve Bank is doing. And with the coming in of this project, we believe that we should be able to increase the activities that we conduct when it comes to financial literacy. And again, there is what we call EKYC. These are digital financial services. And we believe that even taking personal particulars, personal details should also be digital. So we as a central bank, we are trying to come up with a project that is going to what is called EKYC, that is going to to digitize KYC, know your customer. So UNCDF is can come in to support that project as well. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Tione, do you have any sort of ideas or hopes on what kind of engagement you would have with UNCDF through this initiative?
Yes, I do have a few. So of course, one of the areas that I would look at, or rather I would want to suggest engagement would be Since this digital finance for resilience of women and youth is a project that is happening globally, and obviously other areas, other countries have already deployed this project. Obviously, then in this case, it would mean that there are learnings that we could also actually be able to pick from those areas. So I think that's one of the areas that I would look at, that I think UNCDF could actually support us as the implementing partners within the country, within Malawi, so that we're actually able to pick from what others have done, and then let's see how we can implement the same in Malawi. And then also, of course, this comes in also in the form of capacity building for the teams that are also actually implementing these solutions within Malawi. As much as other countries are actually implementing, and as much as we can talk of having these interventions where we are actually learning from others, actual presence on the ground and learning from others how they are doing the implementation is also something that I think could also help for the implementers within Malawi, so that we actually also learn firsthand how it is being done in other countries on the ground. And I think the last bit which I would want to propose would be, as we are talking about financial literacy, educating the rural masses, there's an area I think that we need to also consider. For the rural Malawian, a woman in the rural Malawi, a young person in rural Malawi, even the cheapest, most affordable device that we in this group might find to be affordable, let's say 6,000 Malawi kwacha, which is quite low. Somebody in rural Malawi will find this to be an expensive device. This amount of money for that person to get to part ways with, to go and buy a phone, for them to start using DFS, it will be something that they will consider to be quite expensive. My proposal would be that we actually try to look at an intervention where we're actually bringing low-cost, subsidized handsets that can be actually targeted to the rural Malawian woman and youth, so that we actually try to bring them on board as part of the literacy educations. As we are training them, we ensure that they also actually have the device for them to be able to do the transactions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That was very clear. And Victoria, any last thoughts from you on this?
I think whatever Tuone said applies. I think it's the very same challenge that we experience across the market. Believe you me. So whatever Tuone has highlighted, I think is how we would want to interact with with UNCDF. Furthermore, I should say, prior to us having this engagement, I've seen that they're forthcoming and explaining to say, we want to achieve this and this. What are your pain points as a bank? And so they are having those one-to-one conversations to help your strategy, how best they can implement it. That is the capacity building that Tuone was talking about. So this is a bit differentiated compared to what we had prior. I think 7 years ago, we had a similar approach, but we were only given the goals to say, we want to achieve this, these are your numbers. But now it has switched a bit, and they're like, Victoria, what problems are you having? What is it that we can assist you with? So I like the collaborative approach that is being used now. So I would love for that to be maintained still, and it would be easier for us to seek out for help to implement some other initiatives that Tuone is talking about. I think pretty much that is my last remarks that I have. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you so much. It's been really wonderful hearing and learning from all of you on your experiences operating in this market. And we appreciate the insight you're able to share, and have taken note of some of your concerns and then also some of the proposals that you've made. So thank you very much for your insight. We've come very close to the end of our program, so I'll close the panel discussion session here, and we've also responded to some of the questions the participants asked as we went along. But thank you so much again, all three, for your participation. And to our participants who are listening, thank you very much for staying with us this afternoon. And to close today's event, we are pleased to have Mr. Davy Wirima, who is from the Ministry of Finance, and there he serves as the Director for Pensions and Financial Sector Policy. He will deliver our closing remarks for today's session. Good afternoon, Mr. Wirima.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to have been given this opportunity to deliver concluding remarks on this event. I would like first to congratulate EU, OACPS, Uncdf, Malawi government, and private DFS players on the launch of such groundbreaking program that supports the scale expansion of digital financial services in line with Malawi's strategic plan. We have seen a good presentation on the landscape of the Malawi digital space and what the program is going to support. Such a partnership from UNCDF and public and private sectors will help realize the country's goal to reach women, youth, and other marginalized groups through implementation of expansion projects for digital financial services. As a means for resilience of communities in Malawi, digital infrastructure is deemed to be one of the support pillars to take Malawi's financial inclusion strategy to a higher level while providing basic services and more to the population. The government is supportive and is ready to continue extending its hand to all private sector, formal financial service providers, emerging fintechs, and MSMEs. And let me encourage the private sector to come forward and take advantage of the policy reforms of the government by up with innovative new products and ways to expand and develop an efficient agent distribution network. In the development of Malawi's new financial inclusion strategy, the government considers digital as the main delivery channel of financial services to citizens of Malawi. Marginalized groups such as women, youth, rural communities, and persons with disabilities are usually deprived of the formal financial services. Financial service providers, through their agent distribution network and the digital financial services, have the capacity to address the needs of these segments of the society. To conclude, today we have witnessed a launch of DFS for Resilience of Malawi program that will help materialize these efforts of the private sector to meet the needs of the Malawian population and the strategy of the government. I would therefore like to ask all sector players to take this initiative and make it a reality for everyone involved. I thank you all for your participation and attention. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wirima, for closing the program for us. We appreciate your time and your availability. And to all the participants, thank you very much for spending the afternoon with us. We hope that this was an enriching time for you all to know the new work that is coming up between the OACPS, the European Union, and UNCDF. We're grateful to our partners here on the ground in Malawi, RBM, FDH, TNM, Pamba, and all the other private sector DFS providers who we will be engaging with and working with closely to ensure that we can meet the needs of the underserved in Malawi in this difficult time that that everyone is going through, many are impacted by. I'd like to close the session now. This recording, as I said, will be available and will be shared to the participants list, and it'll also be available if you do get in touch with us at UNCDF, we can share a link with you for the recording if you'd like to share it along with somebody who hasn't been able to attend the session this afternoon. So thanks again, and I'd like to close the session here. Again, just special thanks to our invited guests from the European Commission and from the OACPS. Thank you very much and have a good afternoon.
Thank you. It was a pleasure being here.